All right, guys, welcome to Onelife Podcast. Here with Vedant with aloeVR. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. VR, mental health. I'm excited to talk to you. Where do we start with this? What is aloeVR?
Absolutely. So I founded aloeVR about 3 years ago, I would say, maybe 3.5 now almost. And our mission with aloeVR is to serve students and their mental health through mindfulness building virtual reality experiences that are trauma-informed, culturally relevant, and non-addictive.
How's that for a mission statement? That's a solid mission statement right there.
Yes, sir.
I like that. A lot of questions. Why are you doing what you're doing?
So that's the big one.
Yeah.
So I'll start a little bit farther back, actually.
Please.
So my parents, they immigrated from India, and they worked incredibly hard to provide a life for me and my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
They immigrated eventually to Texas, and that's where we were born.
Okay.
And I've always looked to sort of reconnect with my heritage and kind of discover my heritage.
Especially, Indians got a huge heritage.
There's a lot to read and learn, but I felt a little disconnected kind of growing up in Texas, and I love to engage with different cultures. And I love how America has this kind of melting pot of culture. But as I grew older, I wanted to more engage with my heritage, and I started learning about mindfulness.
Okay.
And mindfulness, like meditation and yoga,
which is all Indian, right? Oh, it started in India.
Yeah, a lot of it started in India, and started reading these Indian spiritual texts, which are only now, like thousands of years later, the science is starting to catch up. The science is getting there. The science is proving a lot of this. And so growing up to kind of heal with my own mental health challenges, I started to really practice mindfulness and yoga. And then that sort of brought me to, how do I make this engaging for kids? How do I bring this to students?
Okay, gotcha. Do you mind sharing your own mental health struggles?
Not at all. So in school, like growing up, I was kind of a little bit of a shy kid, a little bit of an anxious kid, faced a little bit of bullying, and faced, sometimes some racist comments, different things like that. And, I was lucky to have some good close friends and some good teachers in my life and different things to support me, and a lot of privilege with my great parents. But, a lot of, by some of the bullying and some of the different situations, a lot of my anxiety was kind of exacerbated by that. I wasn't in a place where I could love myself, you know what I mean? And it was, I didn't necessarily have the confidence, it was just a little bit of a struggle in that sense. So a lot of it was just kind of generalized anxiety disorder based in different social situations. And so, but later, mindfulness and going to college, getting out of my shell, it taught me kind of how to be more social, but more importantly, to love myself and to accept myself,
which is
in order to be able to grow.
Which is the base, right?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize how important that was.
Yeah, and I wish, and that's part of why I have this mission with aloeVR and to serve schools in this way, is that a lot of things I found out in college in terms of social emotional intelligence, different things like that, I wish I would have learned in elementary or in junior high.
What type of stuff did you learn that you wish you knew?
Yeah, in regards to self-care is important. Knowing how to manage and regulate your emotions is important. Knowing how to talk about your emotions is important.
You're not taught any of that, right?
We're not. And I don't know if it's different in the school system you grew up in, but when I was going to elementary, of course, there was emphasis on math and reading and all of that. But to me, there should be a class for social emotional learning. There should be more resources available.
Yeah, even your parents, how was your day? It's good or bad? I mean, it's like a kid's always good, whatever.
Yeah,
there's never any depth unless you're a special type of parent who's able to get that out of the child, right?
Yeah, and at least so with my dad, I love my dad. He's incredible, but you know, he's a little bit more of the immigrant parent, a little bit closed off in terms of like men talking about their emotions and different things like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily learn that growing up, like how to talk about that stuff. So then you just keep it like bottled up, you know.
Because so I've been talking about this a lot lately, something I'm trying to do myself, because it's monkey see, monkey do.
Yep.
You see your father, his father's this like strong man who doesn't cry, doesn't show emotion.
Right.
So why are you going to be the soft crying baby?
Right. In front
of anybody, because you've never seen that. So therefore, like my dad was a firefighter. My dad worked in the hospital. I seen him cry once in his lifetime.
Wow.
That's when his mum died.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
something absolutely incredibly bad. And that's the only time I've seen a tear in his eye.
Yeah.
Why am I ever going to cry or be emotional?
Right.
Or how am I going to drop my guard and be vulnerable to somebody else when I've never seen it?
Yeah, but sometimes being vulnerable takes so much strength.
I feel like it's harder than anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like, I've put a group of guys together from this podcast because I'm like, there's some mental health issues going on. Let's get some guys together. Yep. And trying to be the vulnerable one, trying to lead by example. I'm trying to do that. So I love the fact that you're touching on the exact same situation, trying to in a different way.
Absolutely.
And I'll have to add you to that group too, because I feel like you'd be a perfect person to add value to that.
Please, I would love that.
Yeah. So you've seen your dad, you've got an immigrant dad, come from India, which is a hard place to come from.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of poverty there, there's a lot of opportunity, absolutely. But you're a number. You're one of 1 billion people in that country.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't crow your way anyway, right? You've got to work hard.
Yeah. So my mom actually, she was the youngest of 4, and not only that, she was a girl. She's a woman, and it's for women in India. Sometimes, I mean, it's getting better, but sometimes there's just not as many opportunities. You have to really.
Is there a lot of sexism in India?
Absolutely, especially
and
in the more rural areas.
Okay.
There's some backwardness.
Okay.
Usually due to like mysticism or not quite like ritual, but I guess you could say archaic beliefs. Right. My mom grew up in the city, though. It was much more progressive. But even then, you know, you have to kind of fight for your education. You have to like really make sure. And she was very brave to kind of come to India, come to the U.S. to start a family. And without any relatives to support. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a big, I've done it myself. It's a big move.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a scary move. But the growth that comes out of it is crazy.
100%.
Like moving to a different country by yourself and figuring stuff out, it's the hardest thing, but it's the best thing you could possibly do.
So what's one area you think you kind of grew in?
Being dependent on anybody else, and realizing that my car breaks down, or haven't got any money, or this or this or this, or if you get dumped or cheated on, or whatever it is, you are by yourself and you have got to figure it out.
Right.
And it sucks at the time. And I've been through some awful things, but it's made me so relentlessly strong today.
Right.
And at the time, I hated it. Right now, I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to experience when you're going through it. But you always realize things always work out, and there's only growth that comes from it.
It's kind of like that whole reframing your problems as opportunities thing.
Which is so hard to do when you're going through the problems.
Right. And problems, like your problems are valid, and it's valid to feel emotion about them, but then you also have to move forward. You have to progress and learn from it somehow.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
What's that? If you keep making the same mistake, you don't learn.
Right.
That's
like the definition of insanity is if you keep making the same mistakes over and over. But
so why VR? Like, are you I'm guessing you're a smart guy to be into that type of stuff.
Well, so with VR, the way I got the idea, so I'm actually like more of a digital minimalist, which I want to talk to you about later. Yeah, so let's talk about it now. So like I know technology can be a great tool, but I'm extremely conscious of not being too addicted to my phone or not being too addicted to
like where you're going here.
Streaming or we now live in like what I would term as the attention economy, where all these tech companies are trying to get your attention for dollars, advertising dollars,
For as
right?
long
Or
as
for
possible,
whatever, or
right?
your subscription money or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of capitalism, and that's okay. I'm a tech CEO, but I want to bring a more ethical lens to it.
Okay.
So, for example, in the past 20 years, technology has kind of grown and increased and gotten better more than the previous 2,000 years before that, right? But we haven't really stopped to think, like, how is this affecting our minds? How is this affecting our daily lives? Like
anxiety, depression, the ability to not make a phone call.
Exactly. Like, how does it affect, for example, I used to be a teacher. How does it affect, teenage boys and girls who are constantly comparing themselves to people on their phones, for example?
Yeah, and not just people in the class or in the school, the entire world.
Yes.
Which is really scary.
Right. And we didn't necessarily have to deal with that growing up, you know?
No. Like, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 27.
Okay, so I'm 43.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have a phone until I was 20.
Right.
So I didn't go through any of that. And I'm so glad I didn't.
And when I was growing up, I was playing cops and robbers in the neighborhood, or, playing
outside,
basketball, that sort of thing, outside. And I think kids still do that some today. But when I used to be a teacher and the students earn free time, what they immediately do when free time happens is...
Oh, really?
They're not talking to each other. They're not socializing. They go onto their phones, right?
That's a hard one, right?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a digital minimalist, but I had worked for 5 years as an educator in East Vegas in a community of disadvantage.
Okay.
I realized students needed more mental health resources, and I tried meditation in my classroom and different things like that, and it wasn't really engaging the students. So I wanted to use technology in a way that was ethical, but also engaging and fun.
Gotcha. Because most people push back on meditation, right?
Yeah, I mean...
The overall masses push back on that stuff.
Right. I mean, I was a 6th grade teacher. 6th graders aren't gonna...
Yeah, I was going to say,
sit still
most
for 10
adults
minutes.
never learn a 6th grader. Yeah.
I can hardly sit still for 20 minutes, right? But how I got the idea for virtual reality in particular, because I hadn't actually used virtual reality too much, but I was on the road. I was listening to a podcast. I think it was from... I can get you the link, but I think it was from Radiolab.
Okay.
And the podcast episode talked about this study they did in regards to VR and all the potential of VR. But this study in particular, what it did was you put on the headset, you're just in a really simple room, and then there's this kind of Sigmund Freud type figure across from you, this bearded therapist looking guy. And all that happens is you tell them what's on your mind, like what's been going on, like what challenges have you been facing, right? Then what the VR game does is that it switches your perspective until you're looking through his eyes at yourself, at like kind of this...
This is what your game does?
No, this is what I was listening to on that podcast.
Okay.
But I'm excited to tell you how my game builds on it. And it switches you to the Freud guy's kind of perspective, and you're watching yourself talk about your life.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
I can see where this is going. Yeah.
Right. And then, so it kind of humanizes yourself. So, because actually most people are pretty caring towards others, but we always have negative self-talk, right?
It's that saying, right? You would never talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself.
Right.
And now you're literally in someone else's shoes, looking at yourself, talking that way.
Yeah, the way I was talking to myself, like in middle school, right?
Yeah,
I was just like negative, anxious.
You're nobody. You're a loser.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Fat, you're this. You're
And so, what ends up happening in this this research that they were doing is you actually give yourself advice as the Freud figure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you empathize with yourself, and
That's
then it switches you back again into yourself in the game, and then you hear your own advice. And in this very simple, low poly, like graphically incomplex game, they had very like huge positive outcomes in terms of like mental health and
How interesting is that?
yeah, so that's what gave me the idea to combine mindfulness, which was already my passion, with virtual reality.
So what is mindfulness exactly?
Yeah, so great question. And the way I define it is just noticing.
Just noticing.
Okay.
Noticing what?
The feeling in your body, like different feelings, like are my palms clammy? Do I have like butterflies in my stomach? Is my jaw tight? Noticing in your head, like do I have anxiety right now? Am I experiencing a lot of joy right now?
Would you say that's
awareness?
Taking time to actually not be stimulated, not be on your phone, not have music going, where you're in your own time and you're able to be more mindful? Would that be a way of being
yes.
Because we're always...
Absolutely. And someone who loves podcasts and obsessed with music, there's nothing inherently bad about those things.
No.
But sometimes you need some stillness, some silence.
Some silence.
Yeah, instead of running away from your thoughts, to observe your thoughts, become aware of your thoughts.
Okay, I know where you're going here.
Yeah.
Because I'm audiobooks, I'm music, but every now and then, well, not every, I'm trying to do it more and more where, hey, it's a 10-minute drive to here, but I'm not putting anything on. I'm going to be up here.
Right.
I'm actually going to listen to myself. I'm actually going to give my time to consciously, subconsciously, whatever it is.
Right.
Because when something's going, you're not engaged with what's going on here. You're distracted.
Exactly.
And we're more distracted than ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's what mindfulness is.
Yeah, that's how I would define it.
Okay.
And the game helps students with those skills, which also research shows that mindfulness helps symptoms of trauma and mental health and all the other stuff in positive ways. Simply noticing your symptoms of trauma, which can be any number of things. It's pretty fluid, but that's kind of where I want to support students, is in that kind of realm.
And that's opposed to like masking it with distractions, right?
Right. And there can be, so you have students who are like, put their head down on their desk and don't engage with class at all, right? That's one way of that trauma is shown. But also you have the students that are up and throwing things around and yelling and starting fights. That's another more social emotional regulation thing where trauma is showing.
Okay.
Right? I'm a big believer in that it's just nature and nurture, and that creates what we might think of as quote unquote bad people or bad students. I'm a big believer in that. It's just like an unlucky card of hands that they're dealt. And we need to have empathy for people who are a little bit less privileged in the type of challenges they face growing up,
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So first time I did VR, I was hooked.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I think it's amazing.
Right.
I thought it was so damn cool.
You're almost tricking your brain, right? Like on a subconscious level.
I could not believe how real it felt.
Yeah.
And I don't like heights, and they put me on the edge of a cliff, and I was supposed to zip line across the Las Vegas Boulevard.
Oh, man.
And I tapped out, and I couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
My palms are sweaty, my feet got like concrete, and I couldn't do it.
Right.
And I literally have a VR in my lounge room, and I play it all the time. I love the thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much... I think military, I think firefighters, I think first responders. Because, I mean, you could, if I send you to war, I have no idea if you're going to step up, you're going to man up, you're the type of person who's going to carry in the corner. Yeah. I think the more realistic you can make somebody under pressure without actually being in danger, the better. You're going to know who's right for what position.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a firefighter, are you going to an amazing firefighter runs into a fire? You're going to the one who's like, hell no, that's not for me. Or I always talk about this, like horrific car accident. Touch wood, I never come across that. But I have no idea if I'm going to step up and be that person to help that person.
Yeah,
I'm going to be that coward in the car. Coward in the car. I have no idea. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to be trained for that without having to go through that?
And funny you mentioned that. So one of the first applications of VR to heal was with veterans with PTSD. And what they would do is, and this isn't really what I do with my product, but what they would do is they they let the soldier wear the headset that's experiencing PTSD, and it's called exposure therapy. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so they actually expose them to like bombs going off still.
Oh wow, it's like stimulation. Wow.
And then they reflect with the therapist and try and figure out how to like reintegrate their emotions around this trauma.
So what it is exactly like.
And hopefully to them, the key is realizing that was then and this is now, and to live in the present moment. And that's one of the key ways to heal from trauma, or to start the journey back. And that's one of the ways VR can really help.
That's a touchy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
without going too far, too little.
Right, it is.
Yeah,
and, obviously it's like mental health professionals doing it, but it's tough.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So why kids? Is it you want to catch them at the beginning?
That's a big reason. So I came to Vegas actually through Teach for America. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
It's all it is you kind of apply and you get in, because I didn't study teaching in college.
Okay.
But you apply, you get in, and you work at the toughest schools, or the schools that really need teachers.
Oh, really?
Or the schools facing the most poverty, that just need like bodies in classrooms that really need teachers. Yeah. So I trained with them, and then I went, and the students were incredible. They were, brave and curious and hilarious, but they didn't have enough access to mental health resources.
Okay.
And so a lot of what we may grow up traditionally believing are like behavior challenges with kids, they're really like social emotional regulation challenges due to trauma in the community. I remember in one meeting with the staff of the school, we did, there's this kind of like app or website where you can map out the crime in the area. And we first mapped out Summerlin. It was pretty clean, pretty clear. Summerlin, the suburb in Vegas, know. But then we mapped out a 7-mile radius around our school, and it just lit up with like abuse crimes, all these crimes in this 5 to 7 mile radius where students are walking to school and everything, right?
Okay.
So, a lot of them have incredible parents and really involved parents that are just having to go and work a lot. But, some of them come from trauma, come from abuse.
Yeah.
And actually, so 2/3 of students in the United States have some sort of symptoms of trauma, like
2/3.
2/3.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
why is that so high?
A variety of factors. So it can come from like family and abuse. It can be things at school itself. So like the bullying and different things that you can talk to,
Does divorce come into that?
Definitely. And it's probably like a less intense indicator, if that, obviously it's tough, but it still can be something. And there's trauma is so fluid, and there's so many different types of indicators, but in reality, all of us could use more mental resilience or build our, social emotional intelligence, even if it's not within the framework of trauma. But at my school, I would talk to my counselors there, and they claimed, or they said that all the students were experiencing some sort of trauma.
Okay.
And it's a more prevalent problem than we might think, because it's not super easy to see. Like sometimes you do see the students like with their head down or fighting or whatever, but sometimes it's not as easy to see.
And everybody's going to express it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you could have 100 people all express it 100 different ways.
Exactly. Depends on the individual. Okay. But it's partly what you said. Students early, I want to support them early, because poor mental health connects to higher incarceration rates later in life, connects to obviously like performing worse academically.
Yeah.
It connects to poor physical health,
Okay.
That mind-body connection. If you have poor mental health, for example, you're eating more junk food, perhaps, or different things like that, or it's manifesting in chronic back pain, and there's been scientific research behind that. Some of those things,
and then like relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend,
right.
Divorce, suicide,
yeah,
drugs,
absolutely.
alcohol abuse.
Yeah, so this one thing of mental health that kind of branches out to a lot of other challenges people in our country are facing, and just in general. So yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to first center on students, because I'd been a teacher and that's kind of my expertise.
Yeah.
But also because if we solve this one problem of supporting kids, not supporting kids enough with their mental health, that helps a lot of other problems, like the incarceration rates, health, all these other things.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly, man, it's amazing. Like it's really cool. So talk to me about the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, I'm excited. How does the game work? Like,
yeah. So
quick question, actually.
For sure.
VR is not the cheapest thing.
Right.
And you're talking about kids having access to this, and you're talking about like lower income kids and things.
Yeah.
How do they get access to this?
Yeah, so it's a subscription service for schools.
Okay, so it's through the school.
Through the school.
Okay.
And
so everybody have access to it.
They all have access, either through the counselor's office or a teacher. We can set them up our stations anywhere.
So it's not an individual household.
Yeah, but no, and great question. We'd like to expand to households somehow.
Okay.
And make it more equitable that way. But we're still kind of working out how that business model would look like.
Okay. No, yeah. I just wanted to jump in and Okay. So the game itself, how does it work?
Yeah. So to tell you about the game, and I promise this is going to relate, but I'm going to first tell you about my favorite chef in Peru. So this guy's named Virgilio Martinez, and he runs a restaurant called Central in Lima in Peru. And as a person, I'd always been interested in Peru and like the history and the food traditions and music, different things like that. And so maybe 4 or 5 summers ago, I went to Peru, and partly to go to this restaurant because I'd seen a documentary about it. Yeah. So it was a top 5 restaurant in the world for a long time.
Nice.
Maybe it still is. So I made a reservation like 6 months in advance, and I finally went. And how the chef sets up the menu is each menu item, there's 19 or 21 courses, but each menu item or course is symbolic of a different altitude in Peru.
Altitude?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So Peru's kind of got all these altitudes and biomes, and you go from the ocean coast all the way to the Andes, right? And you got all these altitudes and animals in between. So each menu item just had like an altitude, latitude, and longitude or something next to it, right? But he only takes ingredients from that altitude.
Okay.
So they kind of naturally go together, So it was like one of the best meals of my life. But what really impressed me about what he was doing is he used the restaurant almost as a front to advocate for his fellow Peruvians, like indigenous Peruvians, and their ingredients, and put those ingredients on the world stage. And so that kind of course, the advocacy bit inspired me because I'm running a for-profit company, but, obviously social consciousness and advocating for the community is huge.
Yeah.
But the menu itself inspired me when I was making my game. So in my game, it's based in Peru, and students go to different altitudes and learn from different animal peace guides.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How interesting is that?
Yeah.
Now I get the backstory.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So Brendan, let's say you're having a tough day in school. Maybe something's going on at home, and then you're just kind of frustrated, or maybe you have beef with someone else in school, and you just need a mental health break. You can either maybe it's set up in the classroom and you can take a 5-minute break from instruction, or you can take a break in the counselor's office. But in the game itself, you can go to the Amazon rainforest and learn from the jaguar about anger and acceptance. Or maybe you go to Machu Picchu and learn from the llama about patience and peace.
Gotcha.
And it's all gamified. It's a little bit more fun and engaging than just like, making a kid meditate for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you say learn about this subject, like what,
Yep.
how long, what are they learning? Is it?
Yeah, so it's all research based, of course, and they're kind of like mini lessons, which have some mini games attached to it. And as I'm raising more developmental money, I want to make it even more interactive.
Okay.
But then after the little mini lesson is done, and you do the little activity with the animal in the game, you can draw to kind of reflect about it in the game, or write about it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options, but I did want to be careful not to make it too gamified or too addictive, because the last thing I want is like for kids to be dependent on VR or addicted to the screens, you know? I want to prepare them to be like, to handle situations that challenge how they feel in real life.
Is it, are you setting up any skill inside the game that they can then take to the outside world and do by themselves?
Yeah.
Like journaling or meditating, or is there an example that you can give me?
Exactly. So, for example, so students start out in the ocean coast, and one of the animals that they work with in the ocean coast is the Humboldt penguin. So it's just, that's a penguin native to Peru.
Yeah.
And the Humboldt penguin works with students on belly breathing.
Okay.
So a lot of scientific research shows that if you breathe like with your belly or in your belly, it engages the parasympathetic nervous system.
And not like...
Right, not like
breathing.
Yeah. So it engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps anxiety. So that's one thing that they don't have to do in the game. They can do belly breathing in real life whenever they want, to deal with a stressful situation.
Okay. Is it teaching them inside the game where they will do it though?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then they can take that and then, okay, I'm feeling anxious.
Right.
The game taught me to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's really, this can really go anywhere. It can go as detailed as you wanted it to, right?
For sure. And as my company grows, I want to do more physical health stuff, talk about more other issues like, bullying, divorce, different other issues that our students face.
Yeah.
Climate change, even just different other things, and really have this as a platform with a menu of options for students to learn and to heal, and to kind of hit that social emotional learning side of that schools don't necessarily hit.
And what's the testing been like? How many kids have you like is it on the market? Is it still on? Okay. So run me through the testing, the results, and things like that.
Absolutely. So we've piloted at over 10 schools and organizations.
In Las Vegas?
Mostly in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then right now we have about 5 paying schools, I would say.
Really?
4 paying schools and 1 therapist paying for it, which is like, we want to eventually expand into serving therapists as well with the product. So impacted.
Is it on Oculus?
Yes. Okay. Oculus Quest 2.
That's what I figured. That's what I got out there.
Yeah. And we've impacted over 600 kids.
Okay.
And 85% of students feel more prepared to handle situations that challenge how they feel, which is obviously something we would want to get as high as possible.
Yeah.
92% feel more positive with their well-being with as little as five minutes with the program. And then 94% of students had fun with the program.
Okay.
And that's important too. We want it to be fun and engaging.
How long are you recommending the kids to do it? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 15?
I would say 10 is the best, because usually the lesson is like 5 minutes, around 5 minutes, the mini lesson. And then there's like reflection time in the game for writing about it, drawing about it.
When you say write about, draw about, is that inside the game? Or is
inside.
How does that work?
So I have a great team of developers in Serbia, actually. And the drawing aspect, there's usually like a question prompt. So like, just an example off the top of my head, like draw a symbol of how you feel after this lesson, right? Okay. And so they Then
So
there's
they're
like
just free drawing it in
they're
this.
kind of free drawing it,
That's
but there's
cool.
like different colors and
Okay.
stuff like that they kind of grab and then they can draw. And
Just get creative.
students tend to like that
Yeah, that's
part. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done a VR thing when I've drawn, so I was just wondering how it worked. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. How do you measure those results? What you're talking about?
Right. And it's something I want to develop and get into like biometrics. So like really measuring like heart rate, variability,
Okay,
different
yeah.
things like that. But as of now, it's just surveys before and after, that sort of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
So the teachers or the schools are implementing those
Right.
surveys. Okay.
Yeah. So it's more like kind of qualitative surveys and students are answering and telling us how to get better. But I'm glad you brought that up because it's really important to me to listen to the community and not do things to the community, but do things with the community.
What do you mean?
If that makes
exactly?
sense. So like a lot of people come in and have this savior complex and don't really understand the actual challenges. And I've worked 5 years at a pretty challenging environment in the school, but a lot of entrepreneurs don't take the time to really listen to what people need and figure out how to serve them ethically.
Gotcha. It's more money business, numbers.
Right. And
Okay.
and I get it, that's part of it. You would
Yeah.
want to, have your profit margins to a place where your company can be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And so then you can serve more kids.
Yeah.
But my goal is I don't want to lose sight of like why I'm doing this and like why my heart's in it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally get you. So what is the plan with this? Like, what is the future? Where do you want to be? What, to me, I see endless possibilities.
Right.
Where do you kind of see it going?
Yeah. So I actually recently just closed a deal with 2 partners who are going to be getting 5% each of the company, and they're going to help me kind of scale. And our goal would be to hopefully serve all the students in the US and beyond with more social emotional learning resources. Like my vision is that all kids will have equitable access to mental health resources. Like that it shouldn't be a problem that kids don't have enough help or support. And whatever it takes to get to that vision.
So yeah, I was going to say, if you got like a counselor, you're paying a counselor, but now you've got a headset with a game on it, which can help, but then it can lead back to the counselor,
right?
Or talk to your parents, or talk to a friend, or it's kind of creating permission, right? Or a guidance that there is other options out there.
Yeah. So related to that, like in schools, and this is just on average, not in our worst schools, but on average, it's about 415 kids to one counselor.
Is it really?
When it's recommended to be 250 kids to one counselor.
Which is still a lot.
Still a lot even. And then our most disadvantaged schools are even worse figures than that.
Okay.
And so counselors are super overwhelmed. Like a lot of kids don't even know that counselors are there to talk about things. They think counselors are there just to help them with classes, which is part of it. But like part of what I want to do is not replace counselors or anything or mental health professionals, but to make their job a little easier, to make them help them be able to serve more students.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally. You're assisting. You're helping with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're definitely not trying to replace it. Okay.
Right.
What else can you kind of tell me about it?
Yeah. So what I think is happening now is like we're trying to figure out where's the best place for the headset to be. Is it in the classroom where the students can take a 5-minute mental health break out of instruction?
They'd ideally want to be outside the room, though, wouldn't they? For like privacy. Or I guess once you're in the headset, no one knows what's going on in there.
It depends on the student. Some students of trauma feel they really need to know what's going on around them because maybe they've been abused or hurt or something like that. And they really need to know like who's close to them, who's around them. So for those types of students, a more private in the counselor's office, one-on-one.
It's the way to do it.
That's kind of the way to do it.
Okay.
Now, it used to be like, when we were growing up, we'd have like a computer room. I don't know if it was like this for you, but you would like go to the computer room and learn how to type or whatever. But now all kids have computers. I think in Nevada, it's a 1-to-1 student to laptop or Chromebook ratio.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we had a computer room.
Right,
There's
right.
one room the whole school.
Same, yeah. And so now that every kid has a laptop, my vision is, well, then let's make a VR room instead of a computer room.
Gotcha.
But we're teaching like media literacy, we're teaching digital minimalism, we're teaching kids how to engage with the technology world in an ethical way. And then they're also having fun. They're also learning coding, or they're learning other different things. But it could be a room of VR headsets with aloeVR. And I haven't trialed this yet at a school yet, but that's kind of part of my vision about how it could work.
I mean, you're looking at $400 a headset. They're not that expensive. Opposed to a computer or a laptop, or so I could definitely see that. I could, even part of a library or something. Right. Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't just have to be your game. It could be multiple different games with different type of subjects or industries.
And it's actually, I believe it's Arizona State that's pioneering this. It's one of the universities in Arizona, and they've been testing out a lot of like biology, microbiology classes, but in the headset.
Okay.
To where you can like an amoeba, for example, you can like really look at it and turn it around, and you know, and so there's a lot of educational opportunities in every subject that are amplified with VR. Yeah.
And I mean, it's also the future too.
Right.
So I want to touch back on the mental health side.
Yeah.
So you're a male. Talk to me about mental health. What do we do?
Right.
Where are the guys going wrong? I feel like you said, suicide rates are the highest in males. We don't call, like, guys go through divorces, guys get screwed over with child custody, guys cop it worse than anybody.
Right.
But we don't call another guy for support.
Yeah.
We take it on the chin, we bottle it up, we suppress it.
There you go.
Then it comes back and bites us in the butt eventually one day. So what do you think? Where are we going wrong? What do we need to do?
Absolutely. And I think, like, in a meta sense, that we're even having this conversation is part of the solution, talking about.
But this is so rare to talk about too, right?
Right. And you know, I'm sure both of us have some of the answers, but neither of us have all the answers, right? And so just talking and listening, I think I've gone through a journey of trying to become a better listener. And I think not only has that helped me learn more, but that's helped me deepen my friendships with my male friends.
Okay.
Yeah. Being there to listen, making sure they know I'm there to listen, and that I have love for them, you know.
And there's no judgment that comes with that.
Exactly.
I feel like that is the biggest thing, is it's like a ego or a pride thing.
I was just going to mention the word ego.
Yeah. Isn't it, right? And being a male, it's like I'm a guy, I'm 220 pounds, I do weights my whole life, I do martial arts, I'm used to being this like alpha male, so I don't have weaknesses, I don't have vulnerability, I don't get lonely. But the truth is, it's not like that. And that's what I've been trying to do is with my friends and with this group, it's like, I have no idea if you cry yourself to sleep or you're the happiest person in the world. Right. Because I never see past the exterior.
Yeah.
I never get any depth from you guys. So
yeah.
Not that I need to cry my shoulder, but
no, there's a balance there. I mean, there's you can find some middle ground. And I think I'll speak for myself. It's been really tough to offer myself grace sometimes. And that's kind of part of that self-love thing I was talking about. But self-love is kind of like a practice, like a daily practice. And bringing it back a little bit to entrepreneurship is also a practice of self-love. You have to be really confident in yourself and in your vision. And if you're really starting to doubt yourself, I mean, that's natural, but also you really have to like figure out how to be confident when you're asking investors for money. You know, you have to really like believe in yourself. Yeah. You know, 100%. And I think that is like the macro level problem of like how interpersonally we like we're kind of talking about before, like we're actually pretty good about caring about other people, but then you know, we have all this negative self-talk and all this other stuff going on, you know.
Yeah, no, I find it's fascinating. The more I learn about it, the more I want to dive into it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I'm not even sure what to say there. It's just, I don't know if it takes some, I mean, did you see, Patty's the UFC fighter?
I've heard that name for sure.
Yeah, he just won the title, and he's like, the first thing he does after he wins the title, he's like, mental health. If you're feeling this way, talk to someone.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, and you're talking about one of the toughest guys in the world who just won a championship.
Like the pinnacle of badass or whatever.
Pinnacle of badass, man.
What most men would want to be.
Pinnacle of, and here he is just drops his guard completely vulnerable. So, I mean, I think having more of those guys will help too.
Yeah.
Opposed to like Chuck Liddell or Tito Ortiz.
Where they're a little bit more
shaved
aggro.
head, alpha male, don't have a single weakness.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, you'll never see saying that stuff.
And
it's not discounting those guys, but that's what males are supposed to be, right?
Right. And I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but one of the catalysts for something that's a catalyst for a lot of my emotional growth was this kind of like hippie workshop that I found in Vegas that one of my friends runs.
Really?
And it's called Hug Healing.
Hug Healing.
Yeah. And all that it is, and I don't know, it may not be for everybody, but this is just an example of one way to connect. But what it is you kind of, it kind of looks like a yoga class. You show up, there's like 20 people there or whatever. And you practice hugging in a safe way, you know, obviously without any like sexual intent or anything like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of older people that are, you know, people in their 60s or 70s that may not have had a hug in a long time, you know. There's a lot of men who haven't just given their male friends a hug, you know, in a long time. And so in this workshop, you know, you actually practice different types of hugs. I know it sounds a little kooky and little, but like.
But what's coming to my mind is like, oh, this is awkward to talk about, and this is awkward. And why am I feeling that?
Exactly.
Why am I feeling that?
Right.
It's so stupid.
It made myself confront like, why do I feel awkward about this workshop?
Awkward being a good word, right?
And, because I think growth comes from that, and I think. So like, for example, we mostly, because a lot of people are right-handed, we mostly hug like this way. But one of the hugs you learn is switching to the other side. So where your hearts align, because your hearts are slightly on the left.
Yeah, with the left.
So it's called a heart hug.
Gotcha.
And through the workshop, I had to hug like men who I, you know, didn't know. And I wasn't really super comfortable with that. And you know, men and women that I didn't know, and sometimes you know it's like a 30-second hug or a minute-long hug, and it's like, whoa, this is like
I can even see it on your face. Like,
this is,
I'm there with you.
You know, as a shy kid, you know, I grew up a shy kid, but also you have all this like, you know, there's all the ego, there's all the aggro stuff.
You know what comes to my mind too is like the stigma of homosexuality. And
then there's a stigma and some homophobia.
Yeah, a lot of homophobia, and that comes from just things being outdated and watching what your parents, how your parents talked or your great parents talked, and it's so much more acceptable and normal now. But a lot of us get caught up in that past of how we were as a child. Yeah. So, you can't hug a male because that makes you gay. Right. Because being gay is the worst thing in the world, which it isn't. It doesn't make any difference to anybody. But it's also the
stigma that happens.
You just people get so caught up on that, and it's so stupid. And like, just if you want to hug your friend or be there for your friend,
it's nothing but it's not. Yeah.
it's
right. And after that, the first Hug Healing, I've been to it like a handful more since my first one, but. After the Hug Healing, I remembered a friend who had passed away. And a male friend of mine who I grew up with was my roommate in college, and he, you know, passed away abruptly. And I remember thinking like, I just wish I could could have given him a
really?
long,
Yeah.
you know, a true hug, you know, an
Yeah.
honest hug. 'Cause, you know, we'd dap each other up, stuff like that, you know. But I
But
wish I
if-
would have just been able
If
to
you
give
guys
him
were
a hug.
closer and able to express it more,
Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't have such a empty feeling in your heart.
Right.
Yeah, I
and,
get that.
And we'd talk about things, and you know, he's someone I felt safe talking to and all that. But you know, I think
There's still that barrier, isn't there?
exactly.
There's always
yeah.
that barrier.
Yeah.
No matter how good of a conversation or how deep it's been, there's always this like,
Right.
this
Like we got to be bros and do it over
Yeah,
Fosters or whatever, you know. So.
Have you ever watched Friends?
Yeah, a little
You
bit.
see like
Yeah.
Joey and Chandler, or they'll go in for a hug and they're like, whoa, that's
Right.
that's a little bit too much, or we're hugging for a little bit too long.
Yeah,
or
it's
it's
and we're used to seeing tough guys or guys like that in the
Everything
media
on TV,
and in
right?
Hollywood, and yeah.
tell me one tough guy you see a soft side of on TV or on a movie. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
So you
I
got
don't
your
know.
dad, you got your male your role models, your police, your firefighters, and then you also got your movie stars.
Right.
Why are guys going to be any different?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that guys shouldn't be masculine or, you know, shouldn't.
No, but
You know,
I think it's that
but
bit of both, right?
Yeah, there has to be a balance, and you know, there's a yeah.
And I've had females sit in this chair and they're like, I'm attracted to males who have got a feminine side,
For sure.
who are able to express a feminine side. Girls want to see that out of guys.
Yeah, anyway.
They don't always, obviously they want the protector, they want the provider, but they also want that emotional guy who can connect and share things with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's crazy. All right. Anything else you want to touch on with the VR, the games, anything, any type of...
Yeah. So
What do you got for me?
So on our website, aloeVR.com, so it's ALOE VR.com is a great place to learn more. Or my Instagram is just ALOE_Vedant,
Okay.
VEDANT. And so you can like keep up with everything that we're doing and stuff like that. But
If you're a school and you're interested, what's the best way? Just through the website?
yes. So if you're a school, definitely reach out through the website. There's pricing, there's contact info, there's
Okay.
everything right there.
Are you reaching out to all the schools one by one, or how are you getting to the schools? Is it word of mouth?
Yeah. So lately I've been more using like personal connections or warm connections, as they would
Okay.
call it. But we've also, we got a little bit of news coverage, local news coverage in
did you?
Vegas, which
Doesn't
led
hurt.
to a few sales. Yeah. So kind of, I'm still kind of discovering that, you know, for myself, how to really bring this product to as many kids as possible. But also there's no need to scale too fast because, again, like I was saying, like I want to make sure I'm listening to the community and have my heart in it. So
No, and I think because of that, you'll do great things because you actually care and you're trying
thanks.
to help people. And I think the money, the business will follow because you're doing it that way.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you're very passionate. What's that saying? Like, follow your passion.
Right.
The most successful people I've had sit in that seat, passion,
Right.
passion, passion.
And it's, you know, I guess there's aspects of the business that I may not love to do, but at the end of the day, it's really easy to work on my business because it's my passion and I'm helping people. So it's like,
Just like this
Why
podcast, right?
yeah.
Exactly. Passion
Absolutely.
about it, get to help other people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank
I'm
you for
honored.
your time.
Thank you so
It was
much.
a pleasure. Good luck with everything. And keep it up.
Beautiful.